Szanowni Państwo, zapraszam na kolejną rozmowę z gościem specjalnym. Pragnę powitać dyrektora wykonawczego Europejskiej Agencji Chemikaliów, pana Bjorna Hansena. Let me welcome Bjorn Hansen, Executive Director of European Chemical Agency. Hi Bjorn, how are you?
Very well, thank you, and I'm looking very much forward to these 10 minutes of talk with you. Thank you very much.
Great, it's a really great and a great pleasure that you are with us during the VIII Kongres of Polish Chemistry. And the first question to you, starting that European Commission adopted a chemical strategy for sustainability last year. It was a few months ago, October 2020. And that chemical strategy for sustainability definitely is one of the most important strategies for chemical industry. What is ECHA's, let's say, the role, the key role, the main role of implementation of that chemical strategy for sustainability? What will be the main challenges of that?
Our main role overall is to use science to answer regulatory questions. And when we have a strategy like the chemical strategy, our role is to help the Commission find the questions that we can answer with science and then answer them.
Well, you mean that the importance of the chemical strategy will be like fulfilling many goals, of course, by chemical sector. But what about a role of chemical industry like a big partner to every company, entrepreneur in front of European Commission, of course? Can we count on it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll use the words of chemical industry itself, which is definitely my view. Chemicals industry is the industry of industries. And I think the COVID crisis, but also the industry strategy, the digital agenda of the Commission very clearly shows that what we want in Europe is that we want a strong manufacturing industry, which does not work without a strong local European chemical industry. And that's what we have here, and that's what the chemicals strategy tries to aim at. But what I think even more in the bigger picture, the European Green Deal makes it evidently clear that from a social, an economic, and an environment perspective, we have one very clear objective by 2050 called climate neutrality, called circularity, and called higher safety. And that requires innovation, and I think the European chemicals industry is the most innovative in the world. So if we manage to do this all together, the Commission, an agency like ours, but foremost chemicals industry, we will meet the innovation challenge and meet the societal challenges of 2050.
Someone said a long time ago that innovations are a part of DNA of chemical industry, but let's back a little bit to the strategy. A key ambition of this strategy is to ensure simplification and consolidation of the legal framework and full implementation of the EU rules on chemicals. How will evaluation of substances looks like? In your opinion, what will be the main challenge or change even in REACH and CLP regulations?
To me, as a starter, you have a chemical molecule and you have a biological organism, a plant, human, and environmental species.
Yeah, okay.
And either that chemical does harm or not to the biology. And it should not matter whether that harm is looked at and assessed and risk managed under REACH, under CLP, or under any other piece of legislation. But it does today. And that's, I think, the biggest challenge is to recognize that it should not matter and then iron out all the inefficiencies that lead to inconsistencies between all the pieces of legislation and utilize the strength of REACH and CLP, which is generate data and have a consistent approach to risk management through classification and labeling. And by doing that, you get more predictability, you get more efficiency, more consistency, which ultimately is good for the citizen who wants protection, who also wants as much protection as possible for the euros that they pay, but it's also very good for industry because it increases predictability, which is good for innovation and good for the internal market.
Yeah, we hope that especially all innovation processes are in front of us, will help us also in make our competitiveness really strong. But I would like also to refer extremely important issues related to the protection of European market, especially because one side, the health, environment, our health, of course, and all environment is really, really important for chemical industry. We know that, but European market a little bit. What will be the future requirements for European Union and non-European Union producers, taking into account the objectives of the strategy, for example?
I think if I look at current legislation and then I look at the strategy and the changes that would require, looking at what we do in ECHA. Current legislation looks at a harmonized internal market, which is equal for EU manufacturers and importers of chemicals and mixtures of chemicals. We've identified a clear weakness, and that's enforcement. Yeah. Enforcement both at the borders, so we get chemicals in that we should not be getting in, which are substandard to what we manufacture and produce in Europe, but also within the European Union, distorting the internal market. Now, what the chemical strategy does, in my view, is it adds on that also products, articles in reach speech. So computers, chairs, tables, and other goods, to also ensure that they follow the same standards in import as in Europe. And here comes the particular challenge of sustainability of the product itself. And that's where, again, enforcement will be needed at the borders to ensure that the products that we get in are low energy in production, they are circular, and they meet the added safety that the strategy is looking at, and also to ensure a more harmonized implementation of enforcement within the Union to be sure that the internal market is fully efficient and sourced. So that's where I think the changes will go, is to move the current focus on substances and mixtures to also articles. And then in any case, also a strengthening of enforcement, in particular on the borders.
Yeah, that's right. Finally, at the end of the day, we are just one European Union market. Of course, taking in ahead many, let's say, not developing, but really developed regions like, for example, Asia or US markets. So in front of us, it's making our competitiveness really, really strong, having in mind our future, our health, our environment. So in front of us, a lot of, let's say, innovations and good ideas how to think, how to find out new solutions for the industry. So my last question is, what do you think about the real role of chemical industry in recovery plan of Europe after COVID time? Because we see as a sector that it's a particular role, and without chemistry, all the European Green Deal goals cannot be real, let's say like that. What do you think, Bjorn? Yeah.
I can only agree to your words. Starting out with what I said, chemical industry is the industry of industries. This means also that the chemistry is what put limits on the usability or the effectiveness of the products made. The polymers that coat a windmill wing determine how long that wing can be, among other things. So chemistry is a limiting factor on meeting many of the goals in the Green Deal. So what it's all about is to extend those limits that chemistry puts on through innovation, but also ensuring that innovation stays vital in the future, which means stays competitive, which requires, again, good border controls, good standards on the European market. And then the European market is big enough, at least it's predicted to stay big enough, to be this soft, immense power of standard setting around the world, that if we manage the innovation, if we manage the transparency in rules with the innovation, then we will influence the demand in the rest of the world, but be in front and that keeps us competitive. So I think very much a win-win-win situation on all three pillars of sustainability.
Yeah, that's right. It was really well said. Chemistry is an industry of all industries and mother of anything can happen good in the future for our lives. So thank you very much. Bjorn Hansen, Executive Director of European Chemical Agency, was my special guest. Thank you very much, Bjorn. Have a nice day. Szanowni
Thank you. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you. Moim gościem specjalnym podczas VIII Kongresu Polska Chemia był Bjorn Hansen, Dyrektor Wykonawczy Europejskiej Agencji Chemikaliów. Dziękuję bardzo.
Pozostajemy w tematach zrównoważoności sektora chemicznego. Dr Marcin Wnukowski, partner w kancelarii Squire Patton Box, wraz z panelistami poruszy ten istotny temat.